Hey everybody, so the GM had this super cool narrative thing planned. He's had it planned for months and it was great. It was perfect. He had maps prepared, NPC speech prepared. It was going to be super melodramatic. And the players just decided to fuck off to have like a beach episode and all that shit became irrelevant. So the GM just sort of broke down into tears and ran away. Like literally ran away. We haven't seen him in about an hour and a half.
He's in the woods.
We're getting worried. He's in the woods, just taking his rage out. Anyway, welcome back,
Were you
everybody.
expecting me to follow something up with that, or?
Yes, anything. You
I did. Okay, I don't know. I didn't have a follow up
so
to that.
much.
It was just a very general statement.
It's fucking. I swear to God. Anyway, welcome back to the Session Scale the podcast. It's me, Isaiah. I'm here with Josh.
I am indeed here.
And today is going to be a simple episode. It's another one of those things where I go, well, this happened to me in my campaign, and I kind of want to talk about it. So I think we're just going to get some pretty basic, like, back and forth going. I got a couple questions I've asked myself in my notes, and sort of we'll put forward to Josh to see what his opinion is, and we'll just kind of go from there. But before we do that, feel free to follow us on your podcast platform of choice, and check out our Ko-fi so we can get Brett paid, and maybe upgrade the editing dungeon that we have him in. That cage is kind of old, a little rusty. Maybe we could spring for a new one. He's starting to complain about it. I feel like we owe him that much.
I do be getting a little stanky.
Yeah, we gotta wash that bed.
Like a dog bed.
You're also getting us at 11:30 in the AM, at least from my time zone. So a different energy today. We're a little more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So we'll see how this goes. That being said, as my wonderful cold open may suggest, I ran into a situation. Not last week, but the week before. The last session I had where I had this scripted event planned. And when I say like had it planned, I mean I had it planned since like before the campaign started. So we're talking like at least a year and a half at this point. And now with the end of Act 2 like on the horizon and this event supposed to be kicking off at the start of next session, I feel like I've ruined it. And I'm a little upset about it, I'm going to be honest. And you might be asking, how? And that's fair. Essentially, I think how I ruined it was through a mix of like fear of it not being taken well and like maybe a little bit of cold feet for not wanting to start a lot of my world building over again because it was kind of on that scale. And this didn't ruin it, but what did throw a spanner into the works was some admittedly good detective work on the part of my players that I had not expected in that moment. And I don't typically expect things from my players. I'm happy to be pleasantly surprised, but this one threw me for like a straight up loop. And I kind of had to improvise, and I don't feel like my improvisation in this instance was very good. And I'm sort of reckoning with that. For further context, there was essentially like a big party scene after the big halfway campaign mission, and it was mentioned in gossip that the question was posed, right, that they fought this giant like death robot fortress thing, and that crazy death robot fortress came from like a vault, like a Borderlands style vault that all the factions were fighting over. And even though one faction claimed ownership of that vault, the thing inside of it, while technically up to them, no one is going to let that sit because it's a giant death fortress robot thing. So now everyone's kind of looking at this with a new perspective, including the players. And with everyone vying for it, the faction that they have been actively dicking over for the whole campaign, and it didn't matter like which faction it was, but any faction that they were actively working against, I kept a tally for it. And that faction was going to act against them in that moment. They were going to steal the giant robot fortress thing and attack the world, and it was kind of going to be very Chroma Conclave. And they would like get chased off the planet and all this crazy stuff would happen. And I gave them that information, and I intended to have that big event happen before the end of the break. And that shit didn't happen just because timing never works the way you want it to in tabletop games. You know, pacing is the eternal nightmare that I suffer through.
Mm-hmm.
And the detective work comes in, or so the first part, right? Having to start over again from scratch, a bunch of NPCs dying and having to meet new ones. I was worried that my players would be like, well, we don't want to do this now. Like, we have put time and effort into these characters, and there was no guarantee that everybody was going to die, but at least a few of them would have been. So I was kind of worried about that, and I had thought about it throughout the whole campaign, and I was like, no, I'm going to go through with it. No, I'm going to go through with it. No, I'm going to go through with it. And then I got to it and kind of panicked. And I feel like I should have just stuck to my guns and not like tried to lessen the blow.
So,
but I did. And
wait, so you're saying you didn't do it?
Well, I didn't get the chance, but the lessening the blow kind of came in where I may have given my players more information than they needed, and it lessened the shock value a little bit. You know, like it lessened the potential impact that the scene would have had they not been given the extra information.
All right, wait.
And to be clear,
two things here. One, did you do it yet or no?
No, I've set it up to where like it's going to happen next session. Okay. And then you might be asking why I'm doing this now, that it hasn't happened yet and my players listen to this podcast. That's kind of the issue I've run into. They are expecting it now. You know, they have very strong suspicion.
But it is big doomsday event, destroy planet, nobody can stop it type situation.
That was the idea, yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, so that was the lessening the blow part.
How did giving them information lessen the blow?
Basically, you know, I had been hinting at it, that like, you know, the people that they've been screwing over weren't at the big party. No one has seen them. They provided the least amount of forces to the big joint offensive than anybody else. Like, I've been planting these seeds for a while. But at the end, it was more of like well, you know, you know, they don't like you admittedly, and they're not here, and they've made it very clear that they always provide retribution when they've been slighted. So maybe you should be prepared for that.
Okay.
Is basically what an NPC shared with them. Mm-hmm. And you know, the basic detective work that they did was like, oh, well, you know, they're not here. They're probably going to try to steal the giant death robot thing, and then they're going to try to attack us. And, you know, just following basic logic, a character was like, well, you know, that's possible. Like, I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to pull it off, but theoretically that is possible, right? So that was the sharing too much information. I could have sort of dug my heels in a little bit, not too much, but, you know, having characters be like, well, I don't know. Like, they could have been more adamant by being like, that's not possible. That place is like so heavily guarded that it couldn't happen. And then it happens anyway, and then you can have the character be like, well, I didn't expect it to happen.
Wait, which part couldn't happen?
That they could steal the giant death robot fortress.
Okay.
You know, I could have had a character, and, you know, I'm not lying to them. I could have that character believe genuinely that that's what they think is, like, they think that is impossible.
Or the character could be lying to them.
Or it could be lying to them, yeah.
Always worth pointing out, I think a lot of players have a tendency to be, to assume, like, well, the GM is telling me through the NPC, so it must be true. When there could be all sorts of contexts where it's NPC could tell you and it will absolutely not be true.
Right, and I'm usually an advocate for that, which is kind of why I'm frustrated at myself for not sticking to my guns, you know?
Like you made the statement that couldn't happen, and then you decided it actually couldn't happen.
No, like on podcast, I've said before, right? Like your GM isn't lying to you if an NPC tells you something that's not true, right? They're not trying.
No, I know.
To maliciously harm.
But I'm saying in this specific scenario, you had an NPC say that couldn't happen, and then you decided as the GM that was a true statement. It could not happen. Is that?
No. So I should have said that. I should have said it couldn't happen.
Oh, you did,
and then just have it happen anyway.
You didn't have them say it couldn't happen.
The NPC said it's possible.
Okay.
That was where I gave them too much info by just being like, yeah, sorta. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was the first misstep, I think. Is that one statement is what cemented in their heads, oh, it's going to happen. And that will lead into something later on.
Okay.
Beyond that, I think I personally got kind of cold feet because of how hard I worked on the planet they're on, the setting, the like infrastructure within it. I've grown comfortable with this norm that I specifically told myself at the beginning of the game that I wasn't like, I can't become comfortable with it because there has to be this massive upheaval.
Why does there have to be a massive upheaval?
Just because it's something I had planned. Like it was a big story event that I kind of wanted to put the players through just to have it happen. And like, well, not just have it happen I wanted it supported through the narrative, but it was like a big plot twist I wanted. I wanted my Luke, I am your father moment, essentially. And that will lead to You
need to take the burning boat approach to the game.
Yes. And that was my initial philosophy. And I waned on it, it seems. Yeah.
Put the fire out.
I did put the fire out. The fire wasn't even that big yet. It was like...
It wasn't even rolling.
It can get a little bigger. Yeah, I was like, it could, it's just, the boat's on fire, but like the masts haven't caught yet and the stern's fine. So like, it is what it is. And then I went, yeah, but what if I can't control it once it's on fire? Oh, got it. And then I put it out.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't entirely, but I've smothered it a bit. And then, the final situation that I feel like I've run into is the players made a really good roll that I wasn't prepared for because they had never used it before.
What?
And
never used it before.
Well, so yes, so the in Lancer you have the downtime actions.
I vaguely remember.
And they just so happened to of all of them, they'd never used this one before.
Okay.
They never even talked about it. So
what?
I wasn't thinking about it when it came up.
What is it?
Buy some time.
Okay, what does it do mechanically?
And it essentially pushes something like... It's kind of hard to describe, so I'll just read it. When you buy some time, you stave off a reckoning, extend a window of opportunity, or merely buy time and breathing room for you and your group. You might be trying to dodge some heat, survive stranded in the wilderness, or cause distractions so another plan can reach its climax. You use that distraction or bought time as reserves for the next mission. On a 9 or less, you can buy a little time, only if drastic measures are taken right now. Otherwise, whatever you're trying to stave off catches up to you. On a 10 through 19, you buy enough time, but the situation becomes precarious or desperate. Next time you get this result, treat it as a 9 or less. On a 20 plus, you buy as much time as you need until the next downtime session. Next time you get the result for the same situation, treat it as a 10 through 19.
So it's now, for exactly this kind of scenario?
It's exactly for this kind of scenario, and I was running into a very real scheduling situation where I took this time off because I needed a break from the game of just like running, prepping every week, doing my usual thing. And I wanted to start the post-break campaign from after everything has gone down, and they did it the session before last. So I now have one session to try to figure out how to postpone this thing that I've been building up to for 15 months.
Oh, how to narratively justify the postponing?
Yes. So I settled on a compromise. Rather than postponing,
just give them
I gave them time narratively to say, okay, this could be happening. you can choose some NPCs to warn, and hopefully they'll listen to you, but you can choose some NPCs to warn, and they could potentially get out in time to survive.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say is, give them the ability to make the situation less bad.
And this is where I fucked up again, because one of the players made a very good argument of, well, in a world where we have cell phones and group chats, why could we not just warn all of our friends?
Yep.
And I went, fuck, that's true.
Yep.
So then I have to now on the fly arbitrate, okay, does it become you have enough space, or is it you have a certain number of NPCs? Like, I have to set a rule somewhere, I feel. I don't actually, I've realized now. In that moment, I was like, I have to set some ground rule. Because they only rolled a partial success. But they're credible people who, like, unless someone is like, no, I have children to feed, who would be like, no, I'm not just going to pick up and leave if I'm getting a free ride out, right? And they have 2 ships now, and one ship, the guest player ship, is bigger than theirs, and it holds more people. It's not like it's not a battleship. It's like a freighter, or it's a freighter ship essentially. So now I'm in this situation where I feel like all of the suspense is gutted, because even if they get attacked, all of that consequence out the fucking window.
The consequence of a bunch of NPCs dying.
Like, a bunch of NPCs dying, they lose access to, like, certain services, right? Like, mechanics could die. The bar that they go to do a downtime action is destroyed, so they can't do that anymore. You know, like, it was more than just the NPCs, but they were tied to the NPCs because the NPCs serve dual function in this game as resource and character.
Is not it a giant fuck off death robot that's just going to destroy everything anyway, regardless of people being warned? Right?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Like, the planet is still cooked in some capacity, right?
Yes. And they could lose out on those services regardless. Right, yeah. And that's something I thought about after the fact, unfortunately. Like, a lot of this is retroactive.
Like, yeah, the bartender might live, but if the bar explodes, it's kind of like, well, he's just kind of Jim now. That's Jim. He used to work at the bar. You know, like, right? Like, that's still a pretty heavy consequence if, like, the planet that they stay on or whatever is firebombed into oblivion.
So I, like, to answer my own question, have I ruined it? No. Realistically,
no,
I can still fix
it. You don't even really have to fix anything. It's just what's going to happen has shifted.
It's shifted, yeah. And this is partially my fault, right? I was so married to this like tragic narrative event, as opposed to a, you know, what I wanted was a Category 10 earthquake. What I got is a tsunami 50 miles off the coast that you can evacuate for.
Right.
And I wasn't prepared for that swap up, especially not on the fly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is kind of where I find myself at the moment. And I'm not 100% sure what to do. There are things I know that there are things I can do. I just don't know what to do. And that sort of will lead into a further discussion for GMing in general about, are these scripted events worth it? Are they a mistake? Would you consider them railroading? All those things.
Well, it's okay. Well, which bit do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, I think the how fix, I think, is where I want to start. How do I deal with
this specific scenario?
Yeah.
I mean, it's still happening, right? Big fuck off robot is still attacking, right? That's not off the table.
Yeah.
Okay, so bad shit's still happening.
Right. Yes, bad shit is still happening.
Okay. And people are still dying. They can't warn an entire planet.
Yes. But here's the thing, right? They don't give a shit about the planet or the people on it. They care about the people they like on it, right?
Okay.
They're not heroes in D&D. They're mercenaries.
Okay.
So they've got no loyalty to this planet. They're here because their boss lives here. So that's kind of a situation I also have to deal with.
Well, I mean, if they're particularly selfish in character, then you have to hit them in benefits to them. Would be so like they give it they save the quartermaster guy who gives them all their weapons, but the entire stock of weapons is on fire and explode. So then the NPC guy's like, well, I could maybe help, but it's gonna take me a while to like get all my shit back. So, you're gonna have to deal with like shittier equipment or no equipment or something. I can't come up with exact mechanical answers because I can't remember how a lot of that shit works in Lancer. But like if it to D&D it a little, the potion seller, the magic shop guy lives, but the magic shop explodes. It's like, well, I can't get you magic ammunition or high quality potions or anything. I could like maybe get you some shitty healing potions and not that many of them, and you're gonna have to tank it for a little while until I can figure out a new supply or whatever. That's the easiest step one, because ultimately if they're not actively stopping the giant fuck off big robot, which it sounds like that they couldn't even if they wanted to.
Yeah, they cannot. No.
Then they're going to do whatever they can to mitigate the damage, but the damage isn't going to be zero. So you got to figure out where you can hit them. If the NPCs aren't going to die, what other places could you potentially hit them that might still cause an issue? And then if the NPCs aren't going to die, but you still want there to be some narrative consequence, then figure out a different kind of narrative consequence, whatever that might be. Like, maybe there was somebody that they were working with or something, or maybe their boss had some plans he was making on said planet go bye-bye, and now he's like, well, my plans are really fucked, so now we're gonna have to do, like, maybe it was a situation where, we had this great contract set up and we were gonna get a fucking sweet payout, but that guy died in a horrible fiery explosion, so now we're not gonna get a sweet payout, so now we're gonna have to do this other really shitty couple of missions to like kind of make up for it. But the person we're getting the job for fucking hates us, so they're gonna make sure that they make our life as difficult as possible. But if we can pull it off, it might be worth it. Stick them in, put them in a situation where it's like you still have to do something, but it's not gonna be as easy or as good of a time as it might have been before.
Right, and I think to sort of parrot this, I think where I did myself no favors is that no matter what, I am resolute on this turn of events, right? It's kind of got to happen because everything's led up to it now. I can't just sort of defang the situation because that kills tension, right?
I mean, yeah, at this point you can't really know.
So I have to do that start over no matter what. And I have sort of screwed myself by not just ripping the Band-Aid off, because that work's got to get done no matter what. So now I have to think about this shit while I'm actively prepping Act 3 and 4 for the game and having to build new places where they can get those resources or figure out how their old suppliers can get them new resources, so on and so forth.
Well, maybe Act 3 is just that, getting our shit back.
That's what it was going to be. That sort of was the plan from the start as well, like the rebuild arc, essentially. The like, everything's cooked, what do we do now?
Yeah, because like, again, they save the weapon master, so he's not dead, but he's like, I don't have any bullets for you, so like I'm gonna need you to go steal some bullets for us. You know what I mean? Like, go find this space pirate gang. They're on this like mining colony. Go fuck them up and take all their guns and bullets, because we ain't got shit. You know, like,
right.
Because essentially, if you take all of the resources away from the NPCs become kind of useless. If this is a situation where the players or the characters are the type of characters that don't give a fuck as much about the NPC themselves, then if the NPC loses their resources, they're kind of worthless, right? Like the characters are going to be like, well, you fucking don't do anything for us anymore, so I don't know, go sit in a corner now, right? So you're still like, they're still getting cut off in some capacity if the resources and the place are destroyed. Because again, you can evacuate, but the planet's still fucked. Like,
the planet is still
the planet's fucked no matter what. And if the planet's fucked no matter what, then they're going to lose all their stuff, or a lot of their stuff. So it hasn't really changed that much. The only thing that's the framing that has changed a little bit, but ultimately the end situation is going to be the same. Right? I don't see any scenario where I don't see any reason why you can't just go back and go with your original plan, and Act 3 is the rebuild. The difference is just that, you know, they're taking jobs from the NPCs who are going to die now because they lived. So they're getting jobs from them instead of getting jobs from some new randos who are going to show up or whatever. That might honestly, you might be in a better scenario there, because
that's true. I genuinely didn't think about that, having the NPC that they save sort of take on a role of
give them the jobs.
Okay, well, we need to get, you know, we need ammo, we need resupply, we need this, that, the other, before we even have a thought that we could try to take the planet back, if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, because ultimately, the scenario prior is they all die horribly, so now new NPCs have to come in as like the job people, which isn't inherently a problem, but it might actually be a little easier if it's characters they already know. They might be more willing to cooperate with the character they already know to try and go find like weapon supplies and food supply and shit.
It's true. That's very true.
Even if the players are selfish bastards, they still might be like, okay, well, we don't really give a shit about Jim, but he has been giving us bullets, and we do need bullets, so I guess we're gonna do this for this asshole, even though we don't really care that much, but somebody's gotta give us bullets. You know? And you're almost forcing them a little bit to be, it's like you're almost forcing them to give a shit emotionally about the characters in like a weird Stockholm-y kind of way.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Which is maybe perhaps not what the intended plan was, but, you know.
No, certainly not the intended plan, but it is an effective
one, I mean, roll with you. When stuff like this happens, that's what you kind of do, right? You got to roll with whatever the scenario is now. So you go, okay, well, this was my original plan. The original plan has now shifted. How can I recontextualize? Right? It's that thing. It's kind of the quantum ogre, right? Do you know about the quantum ogre thing?
No.
Okay, so there's this is one of those things you'll see people talk about on like Reddit and shit, or in videos, or you know, it comes up in lots of different places. But the quantum ogre is the idea that when you're playing, I should specify first. The quantum ogre is framed as a negative, right? People often say it's a bad thing. I don't. I think they're being dumb, but just for the context, people often frame it negative. It's the idea that if the players have, you know, let's say 2 paths in front of them, right? Like, you know, the guard captain who gave them the mission is like, you can go, you know, east down the road, and then hook back around to get to the next town over, or you can try and cut straight through the forest, but I don't know what's going to be in the forest, so cutting through the forest may or may not be dangerous or whatever. And then you as the GM go, okay, regardless of if they pick the road or the forest, they're going to fight an ogre, that like an ogre's going to attack them.
Gotcha.
And the idea is that it is a quantum ogre because the ogre is in quantum superposition and does not exist until observed, right?
Got you. It's Schrodinger's ogre.
Kind of. Well, I think the phrase comes from the idea of like electron clouds, and that you can't
like quantum tunneling.
Yeah, like you can't set a position of the thing until you observe and interact with the thing. So the idea is like no matter which way they go, the ogre's going to show up, and you as the GM are putting the ogre in that quantum superposition before anything else. Before they decide anything, you have a quantum superposition ogre in waiting. And people frame this as a negative thing because people who don't understand what the word railroading is, which is a lot of people, will say, oh, that's really bad railroading, because no matter what, you're not letting the players' actions influence anything, right? Like, you're not giving the players any agency, which of course is stupid, because you're giving the players agency of how they get there, which route they take, who they interact with, what abilities they want to use to cover the situation, right? You're giving them all these other things are left wide open, right? It's not like you said to them, if you go down the forest path, you must do this. And if you go down the dirt path, you must do that. Like, you're still leaving every other thing open on the table. So you're not railroading how they solve the problem or who they solve it with, or like any of the other usual options you would have. The only thing you're predetermining is there will be a fight, and the fight, actually, you're not even necessarily predetermining a fight, right? You're just predetermining ogre will appear. They might dodge the fight on the ogre depending on what game you're playing and what kind of tools they have, right? So it's not really railroading. It's not railroading at all, because you're still letting them do pretty much whatever they want. The only thing it's what you're doing is prepping, right? You are as a GM doing your job and prepping an encounter, which is part of the game, and making sure you have an encounter ready to go. Now, the argument could be, oh, why didn't you prep 2 different encounters for the 2 different pathways? At which point you go, okay, yeah, I could do that, but that's the same scenario, just with 2 separate encounters instead of 1 encounter, right? You're still determining there's going to be encounter here or encounter here. It's the same scenario.
I think on a lower level than that, it's, I'm a human being with responsibilities and a life.
Yes. Yeah, that too. But like, if you're looking at it in a vacuum, the idea of, well, then you should prep 2 different encounters. Okay, so the forest, they encounter giant spiders. On the road, they encounter an ogre. I'm still predetermining encounter is happening in the forest or encounter is happening on the road, and I'm predetermining what it is. That's really, how is that any different than just deciding it's going to be an ogre in both places, right? Like, it's not. So that's the idea of the quantum ogre. Essentially, what's happened here is you are in a quantum ogre scenario where the attack on the planet is the ogre, right? It's happening. No matter what they do, it's going to happen. And the thing that's important to note here is you're still preserving verisimilitude, because the idea that the attack is going to happen no matter what is not breaking logic, right? Like, the players are like, well, we can warn people, but we know we can't get every single person off the planet, or we know that we can't stop the big robot, so it's going to happen. That follows the logic that you have established, in the same way that the ogre attacking them in the forest or on the road still preserves verisimilitude, because, last session or at the beginning of the campaign, you established that there's a lot of ogres wandering around in this area. So it makes sense that they would get attacked by an ogre, right? You're still preserving that internal logic, which is the most important part. So now, with your quantum planet exploding, your quantum planet destruction, Now it's just a case.
My quantum spirit of mother will.
Yeah. That's too long to say. But like now it's just a case of, okay, what is the outcome on the other side and what are they doing beforehand? And we've pretty much already established what they did beforehand. And now what are they going to do on the other side? You don't really need to change that much. You just need to have the event happen and then respond to the prep that they did prior to the event. The only situation where you'd be like really fucking it up would be if the players did a bunch of work to save a bunch of their NPC allies, right? Save a bunch of their teammates or whatever. And then after they did all that work, they all still die horribly because of X, Y, and Z reason. That's the only scenario that is a scenario you can't go with now. That's off the table because that would just feel shitty at that point because you're actively just like, LOL, get fucked, nerds. I don't care what work you did. It's just going to happen. That's actually railroading, right?
Yeah, so that was a thought that crossed my mind. It was one of the first ones, but it was also one of the first ones I had to throw out.
Yes,
because
now
that would piss me off as a player.
Right now, granted, I'm saying that based on the context you've given me. If there's a reason in universe that it makes sense that they wouldn't be able to survive, like maybe some of the NPCs die because there's just not enough ships to get off the planet, right? And that was established in some fashion, like, maybe another NPC was like, well, we could try to leave, but we got to be quick because there's not a lot of escape ships or whatever, like something like that was established. Then it wouldn't feel as railroady and shitty because you're establishing that information. And again, you're maintaining the verisimilitude. So again, that internal consistency and internal logic of the setting or the game is really, really important always, right? That's why that's that thing where if somebody is you're playing some sort of D&D-esque high fantasy nonsense and the players get a job from the High Wizard Lord and he's like, I need you to travel many moons far in the distance to acquire the ancient blade. And one of the player goes, didn't we establish this dude can like put portals wherever he wants? Can't he just portal us over there? Right? It's all about maintaining that internal consistency. Whatever that internal consistency is up to the game, but it doesn't need to make real life sense. It needs to make game sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
So killing the NPCs is pretty much off the table at this point. I don't know, maybe there's a couple of edge case scenarios where it still might make sense or something. That's up to you. I don't know. But that's pretty much off the table. So now you just got to go, okay, attack happens. What are the repercussions of the attack? If the repercussions are not the NPCs dying, then the repercussion has to be something else. What would that be? And what set of repercussions makes the most sense? Because you're not in you haven't backed yourself into a completely fucked no other option scenario, right? It's not that bad.
Yes.
If the players like remembered some plot hole and were like, oh, we can actually destroy the giant robot because we have this interplanetary super laser of doom death and we know where the robot is now, so we're just going to use the laser. That would be bad because then now you're really up shit's creek. Right?
Yeah, now I'm actually fucked.
That scenario would be really fucked, but you're not in that scenario. So yeah, it's basically just adjust it's the yam. It's the yam shaped. Have you heard about the yam thing?
No.
Okay, there's a different phrase. I think Sly Flourish is the one who calls it yam shaped. There's definitely a different phrase I've heard, but I can't think of it right now. But it's the idea that so that the shape of a yam is like, you could also say lemon shaped, I guess. The 2 points on either end, right, converge, but the middle section is the widest. The players have
oblong shaped, I guess.
Huh?
You could call it oblong shaped, I guess.
But the point being, the players are in that middle position right now, doing whatever they can, and all the options are open to them. They're going to come out the other side, and it's going to contract back down to planet gets fucked up. Then after that, you go, okay, what do I do from here? So it's like they're in the open bit. They started on the contracted bit. They're currently in the open bit. They're about to hit the contracted bit again. And then after that initial contracted bit, you then chain on the next yam and get to the next open bit, right?
Right.
So, I think it'll be just a case of dock their resources. I think that's the easiest way to go about it, especially if they're particularly selfish characters.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, they are selfish. It's that, like, some of them more than others. Like, Siffi's character is like a lawful good character, like, no one left behind kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 2 characters are opportunistically good. Like, yeah, we'll help people out as long as it doesn't like cut too much into either A, our profits, or 2, our physical health. Mm-hmm. And then I've got 2 characters who are like, that sounds like a whole lot of not my business, and then just fuck off.
Well, okay, so the characters who are like questionably good then are still gonna feel bad because ultimately, ultimately a lot of people are still dying, right? So the two like the 2 or 3 somewhat good characters are still in a scenario of, oh, that fucking sucks, Mm-hmm. And maybe for the initial set of initial like couple of missions or the initial opening scenario after this a big event, maybe you prey on the characters who are like somewhat good. Maybe you prey on their emotions a little bit and be like, hey, you should feel bad because this happened or something like that. You know what I mean? If you want to go for the guilt angle a little bit, or not even guilt, but like the, feels bad, situation's fucked.
Yeah, the tragedy of it.
Yeah, if you want to go for that angle, then just lean on the characters that will bother more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ultimately, I don't think you're backed in that much of a corner.
No, you're right. And I sort of, like I said, as the days kind of came on since the last 2 weeks, I've realized that I'm less fucked, but I did still want to present this to you because I knew you could give me some good insight.
Yeah, now that being said, the exact what you're going to do afterward, that one's on you. I don't have enough information to I was very careful on what information I provided in this in my notes section. Right.
Because I could easily hit 5 pages of context, and then we're both like leaking out of our ears because our brains aren't working anymore.
Right.
I was very aware. Yeah, I think that answered most of my questions in a nice clean 43 minutes. Perfect. But I did kind of want to pose the question in a broader sense of, should you try to have scripted events, and what is the difference, if any, between this and railroading? We kind of talked about that. Well, no, we did talk about it. So I guess the real question now is, would you recommend people try these scripted events? Would that be something that you would advocate for, or just say no, just sort of play everything by ear, play it how it falls?
Okay,
complex question, I know.
Yeah, okay, so are you saying, like, broadly should you do stuff like this? Is that...
Yes, I mean, in a broad sense, do you personally advocate for it? Like,
advocate? I mean, I don't know if advocate feels like a strong word, maybe, but do I think that this might be something that you could use in your like GM repertoire? I mean, yeah, like I think that's an easy yes, because ultimately it's a cutscene, right? Like,
right.
At the end of the day, you're running a cutscene in the game, and just like the purpose of a cutscene in a video game, the purpose of the cutscene is to be like, all right, players, you can't fuck with this. I am conveying to you an event and information, and I don't want you to fuck with it because this is important, right? That's really what it is. Now, there are certain people who are like, oh, well, video game cutscenes are bad. We don't associate with those people. They can eat my whole ass.
Well, so that sort of person is why I brought this up in the first place, right? You often see people, like, horror stories of people saying things like, oh, well, you know, I've planned out this super detailed, super important thing to happen in the campaign. And a lot of people, you know, common advice is you shouldn't do that, because then that forces you to have expectation, and expectation is typically, you know, antithesis to what you want as a dungeon master.
Yeah, like the thing about it, again, it's the comparison to video games here is like not 1-to-1, but they compare very tightly. Right, a cutscene in a video game, right? If we go from there, obviously a video game is a little different because when you play a video game, you understand that a video game has to put you on the rails and control what you're doing to a certain degree. Like, we all understand that the computer that is the video game cannot be an infinite pool of thoughts the way a human can. So you accept it a little bit more, but people will get annoyed at cutscenes when stupid shit happens in a cutscene that feels like it doesn't make sense and shouldn't have happened and doesn't flow with the character, whatever, right? Again, the verisimilitude argument. It's the thing where the character gets stabbed in a cutscene and then the player standing there is a healer and they're like, I could just heal him. He could be fine. He's dying. I could just heal him. I know he got stabbed in the liver, but I have magical healing powers. He'd be fine. Just let me heal it, right? Like, it's that kind of a problem.
So it reminds me of back before the world was fucked, when Matthew Mercer was playing 14 and he was like, these cutscenes drive me crazy. I'm a white mage. Can I not do anything? Yes. Asuna, anything, please?
14, people comment about that joke in 14 constantly, all the time. Granted, there is actually somewhat of a lore justification for why you can't just magically heal everyone in 14, but we don't need to get down that rabbit hole right now. But there is actually rules about how healing works in 14 that the gameplay does not convey, but they do talk about a lot in the narrative. But that's regardless. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It is literally that. It is literally the 14 white mage problem, right? I'm playing my Warrior of Light. I am playing as a white mage. Why can I? I'm pretty sure my girlfriend made the exact same joke not that long ago because she had that exact moment because she's been playing Astro through the MSQ, and I'm pretty sure she was like, "Please just let me heal him." And I'm like, well, but like, yeah. So people get pissed off in that kind of shit, or the thing where. Another example is when a character does something where people are like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, right? If you're playing, you know, oh no, I gotta whip one out here off the top of my head. All I can think of is Mass Effect. So if you're playing Commander Shepard and, you know, a random innocent civilian gets attacked by a bunch of husks, and Commander Shepard's kind of like, that's not my problem, and then just shoots the person and walks away instead. Like, people be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, that doesn't line up with the character I have in mind. Now, yes, I know there's like Renegade Shepard and stuff, but Renegade Shepard is not evil Shepard, right? They're just dickhead Shepard. There's a distinct difference there. But it not making sense in character, right? Or like you're playing The Witcher and Geralt walks into a situation where there's a bunch of monsters like attacking some guards. He's not gonna like cut the guards' legs off and watch them get eaten by the monsters and then laugh about it, right? Like that's not how Geralt is, you know? So when the logic breaks, again, when the verisimilitude doesn't work, that's when people get annoyed. Taking it to now tabletop, basically you're operating in the same space. If the situation feels like the players got gypped because the verisimilitude is not being adhered to, they will get mad. But if it makes sense and there wasn't any scenario where they feel like they could have completely put it to a halt, they're much less likely to be mad about it. Now, they might not like the way you did it, or they might not like the implication on the narrative, or they might feel like that was a bad idea, but they won't be mad if it is logically consistent and, feels correct. So if you have a scenario, if again, to D&D it, the town near the evil, spooky, undead ruins gets taken over by the Lich. The players might be pissed off about it, but, we did establish the undead, spooky ruins are, like, right down the road. That town was in danger. Okay. And the players are like, well, we couldn't have done anything about it, but, it happened. They're probably not going to be mad. So ultimately, point I'm getting at, doing the cutscene thing is only a problem if it feels like bullshit. Right? But doing it, that's the bad scenario. The good scenario is you do it to push a sense of narrative, right? Like to push the story forward, to make a big event happen, to change things up. And change things up is probably the most important one. I mean, with this particular scenario, you are drastically changing the status quo, right? Which is important.
Completely overhauling it, yeah.
Which is important because much like when we were talking about why combat gets boring in D&D because nothing changes over several rounds, narrative and the scenario of the game can get boring if nothing changes over long periods of time, right? The status quo is established that the players are doing X, Y, and Z thing. And you go, okay, cool. If the players do the same thing for 20 sessions and nothing has shifted at all, they're going to be like, all right, well, this is starting to get dull. Like, we do a job, we go out to the dungeon, mission complete, we come back to town, we get paid. That's all we've done for 20 sessions, and nothing has changed. Characters haven't really, reacted that much to us. Like, they acknowledge it, but they haven't done anything major about, like, us doing these missions over and over again. They just keep rolling along. That feels dull at a certain point because you need the novelty, like something needs to change. And it might be, in some cases, it might be really small, right? If you establish we're playing the exploration dungeon fucker game, then the players probably are okay with the idea that the world itself is not going to shift up that much, because then the style of game you're doing might not be doable, it might not make sense. But they're gonna want like the NPCs in the town that they keep going back to like change and do things and ask them of things and like recognize their accolades and like respond to what they're doing, and that will be the change in that game. So you can vary the degree of change, but the point is, doing a big cutscene thing like this is a big change, is a change to the scenario, and that's generally good. It just keeps things interesting, like the Chroma Conclave moment, using that, since that's A, what you reference, and B, is pretty much the exact same scenario. The Chroma Conclave was cool in Critical Role because it changed up the status quo. Characters died, characters, got new jobs, characters like changed in how they acted. The PCs were like, had a moment of, oh, we're not as invincible as we thought, right? There was all this like, oh, fuck shit going on. And that makes it a cool moment because now the next episode, or in the case of, when you're running a game, the next session, you're like, the players are going to come to the next session and be like, what are we doing now? Like, what is the next couple of sessions going to look like? Because our home base just exploded and like a bunch of our friends died. What the hell's going on? You know what I mean? And then that's exciting because now you're in this nebulous, I don't know what's going to happen, as opposed to oh, well, we're going to go back to town and we're going to get a mission. We're going to go out to another dungeon because that's what we've done every single time. And there's no reason for us to think that's going to change anyway, right?
Doesn't that sound terrible? Like, I've pretty much tried to throw curveballs of some kind at my players for every campaign I've run, you know, even shorter ones. Because that's what I would want while running a game, like while playing in a game, like, well, and you can certainly overuse this, right? And when it's nothing, when you Ryan Johnson it and there's nothing but curveballs, or you know what? Let's do a less controversial one. If you M. Night Shyamalan it, and then there's nothing but curveballs, then you just get fucking annoyed, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think there's a healthy amount of subversion of expectation is 100% what you need to keep stories interesting, especially one where you don't have full control of the narrative.
Right.
When you're watching Legend of Korra or I don't know why that one came, but like Avatar, right? The idea that Aang is really good at airbending, he learned waterbending super easy, tries firebending, burns Katara. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a curveball. Okay, so now things have to change. He's not going to use this thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you have full control of the narrative, it's really easy to pull those things off to keep things interesting. But when you don't, it invites a level of whimsy because you have to relinquish that control. But if the players are comfortable, then you're stuck in a loop, right?
Yeah, well, there's also the sliding scale of it too, right? Because
right, yeah.
Like I said, if we establish that we're playing the Elden Ring style dungeon fucker game, then, you know, the sliding scale of how extreme the event is going to be is probably you're going to keep it tighter, right? So maybe the next town over gets destroyed by, you know, some bandits or whatever, and maybe there's a mission to go like deal with the bandits, but the entire world isn't upended from that event, right? It's like a little small section of the world, and things have changed, but it's not gonna drastically change the type of campaign you're doing. But if you're doing the Final Fantasy style, you know, if you're running Fabula Ultima, and you know that part of that game is as you go up in levels, much like D&D, you're expected to run into crazier and crazier shit to fight, then big crazy events that upend the setting to introduce the crazy shit to fight makes a lot more sense. So there's that sliding scale of what the cutscene event affects and how much of things it affects. The other sliding scale is, as you like you were saying, just how often do you do it, right? Some styles of campaign having a lot of like upending cutscene events might make sense, you know, actually, Apocalypse World kind of operates that way because Apocalypse World explicitly tells you to not have a status quo. So you're expected as the MC to have upending events pretty often on a somewhat regular basis. And again, of course, you can vary the degree of how big of an upend they are, but you know, you're expected to do them because that's kind of what the game wants of you. I mean, not kind of, that is what the game wants of you. So you do it more often, but that's okay. Whereas again, the Dungeon Fucker D&D campaign, that's not as expected. So you reel it in a little bit. But
well, so you know what's fun? You know, not to make us gush about fucking Apocalypse World again, but Apocalypse World is sort of a genius in the fact that it tells you not to keep a status quo, but you can't. You actively can't keep one because of how fronts work, right? Each front has to have a plot twist. If there's 6 fronts, that's 6 plot twists with minor stuff in between. So it is impossible to maintain a status quo.
Yeah, I mean, mechanically, yes, it doesn't let you. It goes back to that thing. If you try to fight Apocalypse World, it will violently fight you back. So yes, it is literally that, right? And I mean, actually, in a way, that's really what fronts are, right? Fronts are establishing big cutscene thing is going to happen. how are the players going to respond to it? Which ones are they going to respond to? Now, Apocalypse World does tell you to sort of leave the door open to stopping them, which for that game makes sense. But in a scenario like this, where we're talking about with Lancer, the idea that the players can't stop like something like this is not really that out of the question, right? So there shouldn't be. I don't know. You can tell me how your players. Well, okay, it hasn't. The full situation hasn't happened yet, so I don't know. Maybe in the future we could see how your players react. But like, I don't expect them to have a very "what the fuck? How could this have happened?" type response, right?
No, and that was the original conceit, was to have that happen. But
well, you wanted them surprised on like a character level.
Yes, yeah, no, I didn't want to. How could this happen? I wanted a what do we do now?
Right. And you didn't. Your plan wasn't to piss off the players and surprise them with something where they felt like it was an ass pull, right? Your plan was to ass pull on the characters to get a rise out of the players.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
which is different
with the knowledge that I have been planting seeds for this since literally session 1.
Which is a different scenario. And again, the concept of big fuck off destruction robot in the crazy space setting where everyone pilots big destruction robots is like not that, like, it makes perfect sense. It's not ridiculous, right? If you're playing D&D and the Death Star shows up, you're gonna be like, oh, hold the phone, what are we doing here, right? But in this game, that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, of course the enemy has a Death Star, like, sure. Right? And that response, the initial response of does that even make any sense, is really important. Right? Like, that is a big deal.
When you've established that the Death Star exists, but no one owns it and everyone wants it, and you keep fucking over the one same group of people over and over who are known for galactic level crash outs. You know.
Yeah. So like,
fun fact,
I guess
go ahead. I was gonna say, fun fact, in Lancer lore, the people that would become the faction, the Harrison Armistry, Harrison had a crash out so colossal that it got them kicked out of government. It like caused a full revolt because they crashed out so hard and caused the only actual genocide in Lancer lore.
That is funny and horrifying at the same time.
They crashed out, caused a genocide of an alien race, and then everyone went, no, you're fired. And they went, no, but we are the government. And they went, we don't care, you're fired.
Yeah. But we are the government. Not anymore, bitch.
Not anymore, you're not.
Yeah, eat my ass. What was the next train of so I guess in the long roundabout way I'm saying is like, yes, cutscenes like this, but like, yeah, you should use them. They just need to make sense in whatever kind of game you're running. And again, to go back to the video game analogy, right? It's the same kind of thing. If I'm playing Marvel Rivals, I'm not expecting cutscenes. You know, I'll expect, maybe a little cinematic here and there, a loading screen with some little bits and doodads, a victory screen, right? That kind of thing. That is within expectation. I don't expect that halfway through the match I have to watch a 5-minute cutscene of like Blade and Dracula fighting because I'm on the Dracula map. That's not that kind of game, right? So it's all about expectations lining up with the game you're running. And as far as I'm aware, with this particular game that you are running, this is not out of expectation. Like there is a degree of my interpretation of Lancer, from you talking about it, me reading it a bit and so on and so forth, is that it kind of like Fabula expects a degree of narrative push forward from the GM, regardless of player action.
Yes, and it has to, right? Yeah. You have to assume that this is the intent when you have downtime actions that actively talk about pushing those things off.
Right. Downtime actions that literally interact with that concept. Then yes, clearly the game wants you to do something with that idea. Which all makes sense, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think you've done anything particularly. I definitely don't think you did anything wrong. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done anything yet.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
The action's not been taken, but
You know
yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, if does an individual player perhaps feel like it might not be you did something wrong because they had a slightly different expectation? Yeah, that can happen, but like you can't control everyone, you know?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think you just hit on a good point. It is impossible to account for every player and their ideas and expectations for the game.
Yeah,
that's going to differ at some point. You cannot control it, so don't try.
Their ideas and expectations for the game you're running, and also the game mechanically, like the rule book, right?
Yeah.
Like both of those things, yeah, you can't account for.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, yeah. And of course, the remedy to that problem is, of course, that your players should have faith in you as a GM in terms of your ideas, the ideas you're having being, interesting or pushing the narrative in a cool way or whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There was a second question. I have definitely not remembered what it was now.
No, I mean, we talked about it, the difference between this and railroading. Like, we hit that pretty well, I think.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, it's just not what railroading is, right? Like...
Yeah. It was a bit of a facetious question, like, admittedly. It's a reinforcing question to be like, I don't see this as railroading. There is agency here, because just because an event is happening doesn't mean that the players don't have control over how they react to it and how they move forward through it.
Yeah, because right, they still have agency to the situation. They can still react to it. There's that, but also the idea of something is going to happen that you cannot stop is like just makes sense on like a basic logic, right? Like, I mean, not to get too existential necessarily, but if you just think about real life, right? Would you say real life is railroading you? Like, no. But no. Things happen that you can't do anything about, like shit happens. So, and I feel like the people who are calling it railroading are probably, I mean, here's the thing. There's a way you could do it that I do think would put it under the railroading scenario, which is bad thing is about to happen and players manage to find out about the bad thing, right? Like they learn about it, but you do not allow them to affect it in any way, right? Like you completely cut them off. Like nothing they do matters at all. The event is locked in, end of discussion. They warn the king and the king is still murdered in his sleep because he just ignores them or something, right? Like that scenario is when you drift into the railroading because you're ignoring their actions and ignoring their agency in the scenario. Like it's all about how much agency do they have, right? If they've learned about a bad thing happening, but they know that they have methods that they could potentially stop it, then they have a lot of agency. If they learn about a bad thing happening and they know they can't stop it, but they know that they could potentially insulate themselves from the bad event, then they don't have as much agency. But as long as you're still allowing them to operate within the agency that they have and that it makes sense for them to have, then you're not railroading them. Right? If you establish, or the game establishes, via whatever the player's toolkit might be, that they have, let's say the players have a Death Star, and they find out that big giant death robot is going to attack, and the players go, okay, so we'll just turn the Death Star on the big giant robot, and then you as the GM say, no, you're not allowed. You just can't. Now you're in railroading territory because the agency that they have as players should make sense here, and you're ignoring it. That's when you get into the railroad. So with your specific example, the players learned about the thing and they reacted to it within the scope of reactability that they had and within the agency that they had, and they did what they could do. If you had said to them, like, if you had been like, the players are like, oh, well, we could just text everybody, and you're like, all of the cell service is down for days, mysteriously, right? Like, you're just like, no, your phones don't work anymore.
That would be particularly brutal.
Yeah, like, now you're getting in railroading territory, because it's like, oh, you're just throwing a random kick in the ass to like ignore the bit of agency we do have in this scenario, especially because in this scenario they don't have a lot of agency to begin with. So now you're like screwing them out of the little bit that they had a grasp on, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's really, yeah, it's all about that scope of what makes sense. Plus people overly
they are overly fearful of railroading.
Yeah. Not the sentence I was trying to say, but that works. I completely lost the sentence I was trying to say, but yes. Like, they're overly worried about a thing that I don't actually think is really that big of a deal. Because, to a point, obviously. Because sometimes you're gonna do a railroady thing on your players, and, like, they're not gonna really care because, you railroaded them into something that was cool. And so they're like, oh, that was cool. Like, it's not always going to be like you go for the railroady thing and then your players are immediately pissed off and are like, fuck you, because if you put them in a situation where the really cool thing happened, then, you're not as bothered by it, right? Like,
yeah,
and some players want to be railroaded, right? Like, this is another thing I feel like doesn't get talked about. Sometimes players want you to put them on the train. They just want to go for a train ride.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I have at least one player who I throw as much shit as I can at them, and the bait is never taken. Yeah. They're just perfectly content to just chill on the train ride and watch the things play out.
Yeah. And yeah, you as a GM might be annoyed about that because you want them to not, but if that's what they want to do, then...
Oh, it drives me goddamn insane.
Right. But sometimes it really is that because, there's different types of players, and some players are like... Some players, the only agency they give a shit about is the little window of agency they have when initiative is rolled. Right?
Yeah.
Like, when initiative is rolled, they don't want you to tell them what attack they're allowed to do. But... outside of that, they're like, yeah, just push me into the direction of the next fight. Right? They want to play Hades. They're like, I go from room to room to room to room to room, and I fight and I fight and I fight and I fight, and then every once in a while, characters yap at me, and I go, and then I go fight to fight to fight to fight. But don't tell me what weapon I have to use, and don't tell me what boons I'm supposed to pick. I want to decide on that. Right? But other than that, I just go from fight box to fight box to fight box. And like, that's not me, but I know there's people like that.
Yep. No, it's not me either, but yeah, it's true.
Some people, the whole group is basically that. They just want to play the D&D dungeon fucker game, and all they're trying to do is go to dungeon and go into the different rooms and fight the different monsters in the dungeon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing that people often call the beer and pretzels game. And for those characters, the railroad is like, or for those players, I should say, the railroad is like literally those players, you say the word railroad to them and they're like, what are you talking about? What's a railroad? You mean like the thing trains go on? Right? So yeah, the fear of the railroad is sometimes just way overblown. But that's its own little microcosm of stuff.
Yeah. Nothing worth getting into this session. And that's kind of it. That's kind of all I had. I just kind of wanted to talk about this. Didn't have a whole lot of time. I've been in Alabama for the last 2 days.
Alabama.
Alabama.
Sweet home.
Bro, there's fucking nothing there.
Yeah, it's Alabama. Like, what?
No. Matt was like, no, Alabama's actually pretty nice. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Dude, we went, right next to our hotel in Alabama was the most packed Waffle House I've ever seen. I swear to God, this Waffle House ran the economy of this town in Alabama.
That's actually really funny.
It was insanity. I don't even remember exactly what town we were in.
That's really funny, actually.
Yeah, dude, it was nuts.
Welcome to Waffle Town.
Yep. We were near Birmingham. I don't think we were in it, or we may have been in it. I don't know. But yeah, not a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Uh
Actually, one of the funniest things, as we were getting gas to leave, saw this dude rock up. This is the most Alabama shit I've ever heard. Baseball, like faded olive drab baseball cap, blue faded tank top. Dude had the biggest beer gut I've ever seen. Shorts, like jorts.
Yep.
Cowboy boots, and a 6-shooter. Just a full-on cult single action army on his hip. And me and my dad just sat there like, look at him, champion.
That is indeed some Alabama ass shit.
Yep.
Oh my god. Why do you think Sam wanted to leave
dude,
so bad?
Dude, going to Alabama, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah.
Bro, we went to a gas station, and in the counter of the gas station, just see-through panel glass and bottles of alcohol.
Yep.
Just everything. You literally could go, oh, let me get one of those and one of those and one of those, and you can just go on with your day.
Yes, sir. The middle America, baby.
Ugh.
Sir.
I know we have some people listening to this who are from Alabama. I'm so sorry you live there.
I mean, we may or may not. I have no idea, but yeah. Shit. I did have one other little thought that popped in my head, and I can't remember what it was now. Damn. Oh well.
You got 20 seconds. You got it.
I don't know. Probably wasn't important.
Okay.
I'm not gonna worry about it.
He's gonna have an emergent moment right after we end recording. I swear to God.
I would say there's a chance. I don't know. Any last little tidbit on your mind?
No, I mean, I just sort of piggybacking on what we were talking about. I know I posed the question, but I had my own answer to the question, which is just because I'm having a weirdly finicky time based on a very, very, very specific circumstance of events.
Yeah.
Does not mean that if any of you potentially who want to run your own game, who has this idea for like a cool scripted event / cutscene thing, as long as you have paved the way for it to make sense, I think you should do it. It can feel fun. It sort of allows you to have your cake and eat it too. And you get to sort of wrestle back a degree of control from the chaos factor.
Right. Yeah. Which is the chaos factor that is the players.
The players and the dice, right? Like,
true.
You could have a situation, it's my super cool assassin will sneak up on the players and then rolls a natural one.
True.
On their stealth.
True.
It lets you just sort of put things in place. And as we said, as long as it feels earned, it feels like your players could have reasonably see it coming. It's like a detective novel, right? If you could have reasonably come to the conclusion of who the killer is, it's a good story. Same concept. So just use them sparingly, use them intentionally, and I don't know. Just drop Death Stars on your players. Why not? Fuck it. If you're playing D&D, just have the Trask show up, but like talk about big dinosaur bones at some point and like a weird wizard.
Yeah.
Because then when the Trask does show up, it's really funny.
Correct.
That's about it. Toss a subscribe. We broke 100 subscribers. That's cool. Follow us on some sort of social media. We got a couple. And that coffee for Brett, because that boy needs coffee, and
he do be coffee addicted. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, like we got two of them. We got two of them on this podcast. I say as I drink my morning
I was
coffee.
gonna say, wait, why are you coming at me like that?
Because it's easy and it does a lot of damage.
Fair enough, I guess. Fair enough. Verisimilitude is the word of the day. It's often the word of the day for me, but like, yeah.
My word of the day is often ludonarrative disco biscuits.
It's a good one.
All right, motherfuckers. That's been us.